Today's topic is all about celebrating your wins and how we show up. And this is part of, first of all, let me wish you a happy International Women's Day week. And as part of that, I wanted to share with you some of the things that I think stops us from celebrating ourselves, celebrating our wins and the way that we show up. Why do I feel this is relevant? Where's the connection with International Women's Day? Because yes, it is all about breaking the bias. And I think for that, a big part of that is self-awareness. It's tuning into actually, where do we have that bias? There are unconscious biases that we all have in some shape or form. So tuning into yourselves, your thoughts, your behaviors, the patterns that you run, and actually questioning them and saying, am I actually just generalizing? Am I making a decision based on a belief that probably isn't the truth, that doesn't really serve both me and the people around me? Just check in with yourself, and because a lot of it is unconscious, we don't realize sometimes when we say things, do things. So it's not intentional that we're biased, but actually by building that self-awareness, we can really tune into that and recognize it. And so what I want to talk about today is that for International Women's Day, everyone's talking about celebrating women, celebrating ourselves. And I put out a post, in fact, on International Women's Day on Tuesday, where I talked about celebrating you, not just this week, not just on International Women's Day, but every day. So celebrating your successes, your accomplishments, overcoming your obstacles and challenges, and looking at how far you've come and celebrating you. But here's the thing. What is it that actually stops us from celebrating ourselves, celebrating how far we've come? And that's what I wanted to share with you today. There's three things that I've identified. I'm sure there's many more, but three things that I wanted to talk about today that stops you from perhaps celebrating you and what often holds us back in our life. And number one is confidence. And there's stats, research from Glasgow University that talks about the fact that in their research, 75% of women lack confidence in the workplace. So what does that mean? It means that, in fact, their research shows that the biggest impact of that is women not wanting to, or holding themselves back, shall I say, from asking for a pay rise is number one. And number two is public speaking, which again can potentially hold you back depending on the job that you're in, or not applying for a job that would require you to do so. So there are two very big things that will hold us back, prevent us maybe from moving forward in our career, advancing, getting to where we want to be. And here's the thing. Again, there's bias around how women show up in the workplace, what they shouldn't do. For me, I believe if we show up with that confidence in ourselves, number two, courage, and number three, certainty, we will have a different response from the people around us. They'll view us differently in a positive way. Of course, there will always be people who will put us down, criticize, have an opinion. But remember, that is just an opinion. We don't want to be placing too much value on that. So here's the thing. If you look at confidence, I've got some notes here I prepared earlier, of course, as I always do, that I wanted to share with you. So what can you do to elevate your confidence? First of all, self-awareness. Self-awareness is key, and it's something that I talk about all of the time. And how can you build more confidence is by tuning into an awareness of what's going on for you. So the thoughts that you're having about yourself. So ask yourself, what is it that has you feeling that lack of confidence? Now, that may feel like an uncomfortable question to ask yourself, I'm not going to lie. But do stop, take some time. Okay, you feel that you lack confidence, maybe in certain situations versus others. Ask yourself why, really tune into that and recognize what it is that makes you feel that way, because often it's going to be a thought that is creating that emotion for you. So what are the thoughts that you are having? And it may be that it's something that's happened in the past. Maybe, at school, you got called out about something, or you were made to feel embarrassed, or you thought you'd done something well and then you got criticized. So it may be an experience you've had, or it might be something that somebody has said to you. And as we all know, the past does not define you today or the future. You take what serves you from your past, not the things that hold you back. So if you've had an experience, if you've had somebody say something to you that's made you feel, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever it might be. What I invite you to do is to actually stop and ask yourself, is that really the truth? Is it someone else's opinion or belief they're putting onto you? And why are you choosing to take that on? Is it someone's opinion that you really value, that you care about? Does it serve you to hold on to that belief? And here's the thing, when we have beliefs, which of course we all do, belief isn't necessarily a fact, it's a belief, right? We might believe something is right or it's wrong, okay? Our belief is not a fact, right? But the thing is, our brain is programmed to then seek evidence to prove your belief to be true. So as an example, if someone says to you, maybe when you were younger or in your role or your job, that you're not good enough in some way, that might not be the words they use, but they've said something to you that's had you now feeling that you're not good enough. Okay, what have you done with that? Your brain, if you've taken that on and you've believed it and you've allowed it to impact you in a negative way, then your brain is going to start searching for evidence to make that true for you. And then it becomes fact that you truly believe that you're not good enough. And here's the thing, that's not true. So when I say about taking a step back and really exploring what it is that has you feeling that you're lacking that confidence, it will be experiences, it will be your inner dialogue, it will be thoughts that you have about yourself. So really stop, tune into it, maybe grab a notebook and pen and write down all the things that you feel have you lacking confidence. Again, it may only be in certain circumstances and not in others, but what is that for you? And when you start to bring that to the surface and bring it into your awareness, then you can change it. Because that belief, the example I used of maybe not being good enough, when you realize that maybe that's come from somebody else's point of view or something that you did that didn't work out the way you had hoped, or your own inner dialogue, you can actually now reprogram that. You can get to change that. So what I'd invite you to do here is to write down all the things that you say to yourself, that you believe about yourself, that aren't empowering, they're not positive, they're not serving you. So write them all down so you really have them in front of you. And a couple of things I'd then like you to do is, number one, is to ask yourself, would you talk to a 5-year-old child in the same way that you talk to yourself, and you tell yourself all these things that you've written in your list? I'm suspecting the answer is no. You wouldn't dare, because you'd want to encourage that child. You want to have them be proud of what they're doing, even if they're trying, they're struggling, but they're making little steps to get somewhere. If they do something and it doesn't work the first time, it's okay. What do? You encourage them to try again. We talk to them with compassion. So I'm inviting you to talk to yourself with compassion. Take that list, look at it, be honest and brutal with yourself and say, would I talk to a child in the same way I talk to myself? And then what I'd like you to do, I invite you to then write down next to that list the opposite of what you've written. So all of those negative, maybe derogatory thoughts, comments that you've got down on paper, then look and say, okay, what is the opposite of that? So for example, if you said, I'm not good enough, and you may have context around that, it might be in the workplace, for example. So whatever that is, then you want to write, I am good enough. I am is so powerful. If you put I am in front of a positive statement and say it to yourself, instead of putting yourself down and beating yourself up, it's incredibly powerful. For example, it might be, I lack confidence. Actually, I exude confidence. I have certainty in myself. I have value to bring to the table. I am smart. I am amazing. So think about all the things you've written. What is the equal opposite of that? What does that look like? So that's my invitation to you to take some time. This isn't a 2-minute exercise. This is maybe block out an hour of time when you've got some time on your own, or maybe when you're driving, you're on the train, maybe you're commuting, just a time when you get to think on your own and really reflect on this. If you feel there's aspects of your, or areas of your life where you're lacking confidence, really stop and tune into why that is and where that's stemmed from, and then explore what you can do to reprogram those thoughts. So you talk to yourself with more compassion and you empower yourself based on the language that you're using when you're talking to yourself, that inner self dialogue. And as I said, the past doesn't define you. Others don't define you. Everyone will have an opinion. People will always criticize. But ultimately, it's what you choose to do with that information. There's a book that I really think I should be getting some what's the word, like affiliate for, because I recognize it to all of my clients. I'm always referring it to people, and I'm going to mention it here. And it's called The 4 Agreements. It is available on Amazon and Audible, and it's a really short read. Probably read it in a couple of hours, or listen to it if you prefer. And it's 4 very simple agreements, and they're incredibly powerful. And one of them, and the reason I referred to it here, one of them is do not take things personally. So what other people say, don't take it personally, because often, particularly if it's a criticism or a put me down, it's coming from their own insecurities. It's never actually about you. And recognizing that is completely empowering. So a great book to read if you have some time for that. So that's the first thing, is confidence. What can you do to start to build more confidence? Number 2 is courage. And this is having the courage to show up, to step up, and to speak up. And you may have heard me talk about this before. I've referred to this in my TEDx talk, that's showing up, stepping up, and speaking up. And what do I mean by that? Well, number 1, show up is about not hiding. And a great part of not hiding is about being aware, again, self-awareness, of how you carry yourself, your body language, your physiology, the way that you walk into your office, into a room, into a meeting, how you are on a Zoom call or a Teams call. Think about your body language, because often I've heard it said before many a time is that people don't speak up because they're afraid of being put down or criticized, again, other people's opinions, and maybe people thinking they're stupid. But here's the thing, speaking is only, or the words, should I say, the words, the speaking is only 7% of your communication. In fact, when it comes to communication, 55% of communication is your body language. So think about your body language. How do you carry yourself? How do you present yourself? Again, self-awareness, start to check in with yourself. Look in the mirror, take some pictures. If you've got someone, a friend or colleague that you trust, ask them about what's their perception of you and just the way that you show up. Before you've even said a word, what's the first impression? Think about how can you show up differently? How can you show up with that certainty in yourself and have the courage to do that? Having the courage to show up is part of that, is how you carry yourself when you're showing up in the world. So something there that you could maybe improve upon, work on, develop, hone, whatever it might be. Number 2 is to step up. And what I mean by stepping up is to ask for what you want. Remember, I mentioned just now about the research from Glasgow University, and the biggest impact of the 75% of women not having confidence in the workplace is that they don't ask for a pay rise. So when I talk about having the courage, it's courage to step up and ask for what you want. And this, by the way, requires you to know what it is you want. And this is where I invite you to start getting clear on your purpose, having clarity on your vision. So if I was to ask you, where do you want to be in 12 months' time? What does your life look like in 12 months' time? What would your answer be? And that's not just work, that's everything, because everything is intertwined, it's all correlated. It's not about compartmentalizing your work and saying, this is what I want my career to look like, but actually, you know, I'll deal with all the rest later, because however you want this to work will influence directly the rest of your life, whether it's your relationships, your finances, your social life, your environment. All of these things will get impacted in some way, even if not overtly. So you want to think about, what is your purpose in life? What is the vision that you have for you, whether it's in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years? You want to have some clarity around that. You want to understand your values. What is important for you? What are your non-negotiables when it comes to your values? And you want to explore your beliefs. What are the beliefs that you have about yourself and about the world around you? And are those beliefs really serving you? Are they helping you to see things in the best possible way? Because oftentimes our beliefs come from our past experiences. And if we've had a lot of bad experiences, our beliefs are typically things that will bring us down, that will hold us back, that will have us playing small. And it will reflect in the way that we show up. It will reflect in your body language, in the language that you use, the words, the tonality that you use, your attitude. All of these things will be impacted by your beliefs. So take some time to really explore, what are your beliefs about different areas of your life? What are your beliefs about you? And are they serving you? Are they things that are positive, that are inspiring, that are going to propel you forward? Or are they things that potentially are holding you back? So this is what I mean by stepping up. It's asking for what you want. And before you can ask for what you want, you need to know what it is you want. And these are some areas that you can explore, such as your vision, getting clear on what that will look like, what it will feel like, what it will mean for you, having an understanding of your values. So what are your non-negotiables in your life? That will also help incredibly with your decision making. So if you struggle sometimes to make decisions, if you can be indecisive, being really clear on your values will help you to stand by them when you have big decisions to make. And then your beliefs, so checking in with the beliefs. Are they things that are serving you or that are holding you back? Okay, and then the third part of courage is to speak up. And with that, we go back to the 38%, which is tonality. So 55 is body language, 7% is your words of communication, that is, and 38% is your tonality, which is really important. It's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. So again, when you're speaking up, so the third part of courage, we have, just to reiterate, we've got showing up. And a big part of that is how you carry yourself, your body language. Then you've got stepping up and asking for what you want. And before that, knowing what it is you want. And then you've got speaking up. And speaking up is your tonality and the words that you use. So again, self-awareness, checking in with the kind of language that you use. Is it positively framed or is it negatively framed? And what is the tonality that you are using? These are little things that can make a huge difference to the way that you show up and the courage that you have in how you project yourself. So having courage, when I talk about having courage, it's the courage to show up, step up and speak up. And these are things you can do to have that courage, as well as to show up in a way that will have people remembering you for the right reasons and having you top of mind. And then number 3 is certainty, and having certainty in yourself. So we want to have confidence, courage, and certainty. So when I talk about certainty, remember I mentioned that it's important to have, I mentioned earlier that our brain naturally looks for evidence of things that we believe to be true. So when we're uncertain about ourselves, when we lack that certainty, our brain will naturally start to look for things to prove that is true. So how can you therefore create certainty for yourself? And I mean certainty about you. So you've got confidence and certainty in yourself. Here's something I invite you to do, is to take time to recognize your successes, your accomplishments, your wins, however big or small, it doesn't matter. It's personal to you. But here's the thing, by going through the exercise, writing it down, you're now almost reprogramming your brain to recognize the wins, the successes, not the things that didn't work out, the things that maybe you consider are failures. Well, I don't believe there is such thing as a failure. Failure is learning. It's what you take from the experience. If you don't learn from the experience, then you could argue, yeah, you failed because you're just not seeing the lesson. But if you take a lesson from something that hasn't worked out for you, it's a learning, it's not a failure. So what are the wins? What are the successes? What are the learnings that you have had? Because those are the things that are evidence for your brain to recognize, actually, yeah, I have certainty in myself. Look at all that I've accomplished. And by the way, this again is not just about your career. This is about your personal life too. So both personally and professionally, take some time to write those down, see what comes up for you. And that will help to instill the certainty within you that, yeah, I am good. Yes, I do have value to bring to the table. You know, I've accomplished this, I achieved that, I delivered this, you know, I got this recognition. Think of all those things, because again, our brain naturally focuses on what went wrong, what didn't work out as we had expected. And we focus on the criticisms or all the negatives. And often that's like 2% of something, and that, you know, 98% of something that was great, we suddenly forget about, and we're looking at the 2%. So by taking time to do this, and also continuing to do it on a regular basis, and maybe at the end of every week, take some time to just reflect on your week and your wins, your accomplishments and successes. And they can be really small. It could be that if you're someone who is shy or lacks confidence, that you spoke to a stranger, or you smiled at a stranger, you started conversation, or you helped someone out, you did a good deed. You know, it doesn't have to be a massive accomplishment. It can be a small success. What does success mean for you? What is that win? Again, it's a very personal list for you. No one else has to approve it. The point here is, though, that people will see that, and sorry, not people, you will see that when you write it down, and you'll then start to recognize, actually, look at all of these things that I've done. Look at how good I really am. And that will start to instill that more certainty in yourself. And by doing so, it will help you to hone your brand identity in terms of understanding who you are, your capabilities, your accomplishments, what you stand for. So drawing upon what I spoke about earlier with courage, looking at your purpose, your vision, and what you stand for, your values, your beliefs. What is it you stand for, and what is it you want to be known for? To get clear on that as well, have a handful of words that you feel represent you, that you want other people to know you for. So if you were to approach them and say, you know, when you think of me, or when you first met me, or when you hear my name mentioned, what are the first 3 words that come to mind? This is something I do with my clients all the time, is because you want to understand other people's perceptions of you. You understand how people are perceiving you, particularly in the workplace. And so you may think you show up a certain way, but it's always interesting to get that perspective. So check it out by inviting people that you trust, people who will come at this with good intention, and ask them to share with you 3 words or 3 phrases that come to mind when they hear your name mentioned, and explore and see what patterns are coming up for you. And if you're not happy with the feedback, because more than likely it'll be positive, but if you're not happy with it and you feel, well, why is nobody recognizing this about me? Because I think that's a big part of who I am, then that's where you may have a gap. And that's where you can start to look at, okay, what can I do differently to close that gap, so that people start to use that word or phrase to describe me. So once you've done that, once you've got that evidence, you've created that certainty, you've built your brand identity for yourself, you'll then naturally start to convey that, whether it's in conversation, it's if you're active on social media, on LinkedIn, that will come across naturally in your posts or your videos, the ideas that you have at work, the conversations that you're having. Why is this important? It's important because by being clear on who you are and what you stand for, and the value that you bring to the table, when that naturally starts to flow in your conversations, people will start to recognize and hear what value you've got to bring, who you are. And remember, at the start, I mentioned how one of the best pieces of advice I was given very early on in my career was that however good I am at what I do, and I keep my head down and work really hard, I would struggle to move forward in my career and achieve the aspirations that I had set for myself, because people didn't know who I was, what I was about, what value I was bringing to the table, because I was too quiet. And this is why I do what I do, because I recognize my early mistakes, things that I didn't know that I help people with. And by the way, this isn't only applicable or relevant for people early on in their career. There are people who are much further down the line in their career that I work with, even people at a director, CXO level, who will still have struggles in this area. And it's about having someone to kind of hold your hand and almost have a sounding board, or that safe space to really explore that and help you to see what it is that's stopping you, what it is that's holding you back. So these are some things I've talked about today, some questions, some exercises that you can do so that you feel more comfortable with celebrating you, not just for International Women's Day or Women's Week, but actually for every day, that you get to show up and celebrate who you are and what you stand for. And by doing so, you'll have people responding to you in a very different and positive way. So that's my invitation to you today. Do let me know in the comments if this has been useful for you, what your biggest takeaway has been. And of course, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. I am going to finish up shortly because I'm a little over time today. But if you do have questions, please drop them in the comments, tag me in. I will come back and answer them. If you'd rather do so, then by all means, message me directly and I will come back to you. So I hope this has been useful. As I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts and what has been most helpful for you, what's been your biggest takeaway, what resonated with you. And before I go, a couple of things. As always, do remember to grab your copy of the Personal Brand Playbook if you haven't already done so. And my amazing personal assistant, Sharon, has also kindly popped in the link to my YouTube channel, where we have all of the previous episodes of these lives over the last probably about 14, 15 months now, as well as all the podcast videos. So we've got at the moment about 50 episodes. So we're releasing them over the course of the week. So there's a lot in there already. So if you want to go check out the video versions of my podcast, mi-brandHQ, then do head over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel so you'll get updates as new podcasts get published and as new episodes of these lives get published in there too. There's a lot of material and content in there around elevating your career, talking about topics on personal branding, communication, having a greater presence, building relationships, networking. If you're starting a new job, and a great way to onboard yourself, there's a wealth of information in there. So do head over, subscribe to the channel and check out what would be helpful for you. And as I always say, if there's any questions, do reach out to me, private message me, or drop the questions in the comments below and I will come back to you. So in the meantime, I hope that has been helpful and you've had an amazing International Women's Day week. And again, to iterate, celebrate yourself every day. So your successes, your accomplishments, overcoming challenges, obstacles, celebrating how far you have come and celebrating you. And keep showing up, keep stepping up, keep speaking up. Embrace your unique you. Be a leader for you and for others. Until next time, remember to build your influence, make an impact, and be remembered for the right reasons. Thank you for stopping by today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Remember to show up as the best version of you. Take care and see you next week.